Mexican superstar Saúl Canelo Álvarez is one of the most famous and successful fighters in the boxing world. Thanks to his amazing skills, power, and speed, Canelo defeats the competitors in a very spectacular way. Throughout his career, he defeated many very famous fighters and became a world champion in 4 weight divisions. And that is why today he ranks first in pound-for-pound rankings and is the highest-paid boxer in the world. In this video, I will tell you about Canelo Álvarez's road to becoming a pound-for-pound king. Saúl Canelo Álvarez had his first professional fight back in 2005 when he was just 15 years old. He defeated his opponent Abraham Gonzalez by technical knockout in the 4th round. Further, for 5 years, Canelo fought few known fighters, gaining experience and winning small titles. He held the majority of these fights in his native Mexico, only occasionally traveling outside the country. The first serious test for a 20-year-old talented Mexican was the fight against former world champion from Argentina Carlos Baldomir, and Álvarez passed this test without any problems. The Mexican was much better than his opponent in this fight, and in the final seconds of the 6th round, he knocked out Baldomir with a big left hook.
Oh boy, Baldomir might be ready to go. And he's gone! Canelo knocks out the 39-year-old. He's not going to get up, and it is over.
One fight after defeating Baldomir, Canelo fought for the world title for the first time in his professional career. In the fight for the vacant WBC World Champion belt in the super welterweight, he was opposed by a Briton, Matthew Hatton. The Mexican controlled the fight entirely. It lasted all 12 rounds, after which all 3 judges scored 119 to 108 in favor of Canelo, who thus took WBC World Super Welterweight Champion title. After winning the championship belt, Álvarez held 3 successful title defenses, and after that, he faced a fight against Shane Mosley, the 40-year-old former 4-time world champion and the pound-for-pound ex-leader, who was that time already out of the peak of his career. The American was in good shape and even occasionally successfully landed his powerful blows. However, despite this and the dissection above the left eye received after colliding heads at the beginning of the fight, Canelo won almost every round and was declared the winner by unanimous decision of the judges. After this victory, Álvarez once again successfully defended his title, and in April 2013 went to unification fight against undefeated WBA world champion Austin Trout. It was indeed an interesting fight. Trout punched out a lot, and some of the punches landed, but Canelo tried to win each episode, defending well and delivering 2 to 3 punches more than his opponent. At the start of the 7th round, the Mexican knocked down Trout, but after the American got up, Canelo failed to finish him.
Trout 26-0, 14. There's a big right hand that drops Trout. We talked about the momentum of the uppercut in round 6.
Álvarez won by unanimous decision after 12 rounds, adding a WBA belt to his collection. 5 months after winning the 2nd belt, Álvarez fought the undefeated world champion in 5 weight divisions, the legendary Floyd Mayweather Jr. Unfortunately for Canelo, Mayweather was just in incredible physical shape, and the Mexican, despite he had performed some successful episodes, was worse than his more experienced opponent. The result of this spectacular fight was Mayweather's victory by a majority decision. It was the first defeat in the Álvarez's professional career, after which he also lost his championship belts in the super welterweight division. The next 3 fights were successful for Canelo. He stopped Alfredo Angulo by a technical knockout, defeated Erislandy Lara by a split decision, and spectacularly knocked out James Kirkland, and in November 2015 went to fight for the vacant WBC World Middleweight title against Puerto Rican star Miguel Cotto. After a not-so-successful first round, Álvarez took the fight under his control and with each round began to deliver more accurate and powerful punches. Cotto also had successful episodes in this fight. However, this was not enough to win. And after 12 rounds, the unanimous decision of the judges declared Canelo the winner. Thus, the Mexican again became the WBC World Champion, but in the middleweight division this time. Alvarez held his first middleweight title defense against the former world champion Briton Amir Khan. For this fight, the Briton climbed one weight division higher, and the fight itself was in the fixed weight up to 155 pounds. In the first rounds, Khan surprised everyone. They moved well, landed quick punches, and forced the Mexican to miss. But in the third round, Canelo adjusted to his opponent and successfully landed his punches, including on the body. The Briton began to slow down and miss more and more punches. And at the end of the sixth round, Alvarez's powerful straight right caught the opponent. He fell on his back and lay for a few minutes on the canvas.
You sap a man's confidence with body shots, as well as taking away his energy. And every
Tremendous right hand shot by Canelo.
And Kenny Bayless is stopping the fight.
This knockout was recognized as the Ring Magazine Knockout of the Year, so Canelo retained his middleweight title. In the next fight, Alvarez returned to the super welterweight and knocked out the undefeated WBO world champion Liam Smith. Next, by the unanimous decision, he defeated his compatriot Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and fought perennial world middleweight champion Gennady Golovkin. According to the results of 12 rounds of the fight with Golovkin, the judges declared a very controversial draw, which the both fighters were not happy with and expressed their desire to hold another fight. In September 2018, exactly 1 year after the first fight, a long-awaited rematch between Canelo and Triple G took place. The fight was very close. All the 12 rounds, both fighters held at a high pace, answering blows with blows. But still, Canelo was a little more accurate than his opponent. After the fight, one judge scored 114-114, and the other two a minimum victory for the Mexican, 115-113. Thus, in this very spectacular fight, which by the way was recognized as the Ring Magazine Fight of the Year, Alvarez was declared the winner and owner of the WBC and WBA middleweight champion belts. In the next two fights, Canelo stopped Rocky Fielding by a technical knockout, and according to the unanimous decision, defeated Daniel Jacobs, adding an IBF middleweight belt to his collection. After defeating Jacobs in November 2019, Alvarez climbed two weight categories and challenged the WBO World Light Heavyweight Champion Sergey Kovalev. The fight started at a low pace. The taller Kovalev from the first round used his height and reach, landing his punches from a long distance without letting the Mexican to approach. But already in the fourth round, Canelo adjusted himself to his opponent's style and began to cut the distance and land powerful combinations. After the mid of the fight, Kovalev began to tire and Alvarez landed more and more of his punches. In the 11th round, Canelo made his powerful left hook and seeing the Russian staggered, immediately threw the right straight, after which Kovalev fell on the ropes.
Kovalev's not even committing to the... There it is. Kovalev's hurt. Kovalev's down. Kovalev's out. It's over. Canelo is the light heavyweight champion of the world.
It was a spectacular victory for the Mexican over a strong opponent, after which Canelo became the WBO World Light Heavyweight Champion. Alvarez held his next fight again in a new weight division. This time, his opponent was the undefeated WBA World Super Middleweight Champion Callum Smith, who was also a winner of the Muhammad Ali Trophy. A vacant WBC title was also at stake for this fight. Smith was much higher than the Mexican, but this was not a problem for Canelo, who started boxing at a comfortable distance from the very first round. Throughout the 12 rounds, Alvarez performed much better than his opponent, and there were a few moments when it seemed that the fight would be stopped. But the Briton survived until the end of the fight, and Canelo won by unanimous decision and became the WBC and WBA world champion in his fourth weight division. 2 months later, Alvarez successfully defended his titles against Avni Yildirim, and in May 2021, he came to the ring for a unification bout against undefeated WBO World Super Middleweight Champion Billy Joe Saunders. During 7 rounds, the fight was equal. Both fighters demonstrated good fighting moments. However, Canelo looked a little more advantageous than his opponent. In the 8th round, Saunders started to miss too many powerful punches from the Mexican fighter, and in the break between the 8th and the 9th rounds, he refused to continue the fight due to an eye injury. Thus, Canelo Alvarez defeated another powerful opponent and added the WBO belt to his championship belts. In November 2021, just 6 months after defeating Saunders, Canelo again had a unification bout. This time, the opponent of Mexican star was another undefeated fighter, the IBF World Super Middleweight Champion Caleb Plant. At the beginning of the fight, Plant offered good resistance to Alvarez and even won several rounds. But after the 5th round, the American began to slow down, and Canelo, on the contrary, picked up the pace of the fight. And at the beginning of the 11th round, the Mexican caught his opponent by a left hook and then hit a few more blows, and Plant was knocked down.
Shots to the body, and Plant is not the same. He just got hurt.
He got up and was able to continue, but 10 seconds later, Alvarez sent him to the canvas again, and the fight was finished.
The coronation is complete! All hail King Canelo! Viva Mexico's first undisputed champion!
So, Canelo Alvarez won the IBF belt and became the undisputed super middleweight world champion. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.